Hi, it's Joe with the Level Up Your Gym podcast, and today it is my pleasure to be joined by Erica Mcquade, HR professional with Lockheed Martin, and probably the highlight of her resume, member at Synergy Athletics, our gym. And Erica has helped me in the past when I've been going through growing our business on getting to know people during the interview process. A lot of the gym owners on the call are going from that single sole entrepreneur to hiring their first few people, and they know training and they want to find that person that's the right trainer, but they might not know administration. And when they go to get office help, they struggle for 2 to 3 years to kind of iron things out. And Erica is going to make sure that doesn't happen with some great tips today. So welcome, Erica.
Thank you.
All right, Erica, I'm going to let you take it away and get right into it. I should also mention Erica's probably the strongest person on this call. She does nonstop spin. I swear I'm going to go to one of her classes. The times I've been ready, she's canceled them, which has been very weird.
Yeah, sure.
All right, Erica, I appreciate your time. What can you advise someone who's looking to find their first couple employees on the HR side?
Yeah, so, well, if you do this within your industry, you can pretty much tailor things no matter where you work, but you want to try and think of like, what's that job description? So what are you looking for in the person? And in that description, make sure you list out strengths you want, desired skills, as well as skills that are required. I know in your industry, you may have some different trainer certifications that are needed, but then also based on, how you want to run your business, what are those desired skills that you look for? And then, I would suggest, obviously, when you start to collect like those resumes, kind of look through, like, do they have those different skills that were in your job description? And then, if you're looking at, say, 5 people that look exactly the same, what on there makes one person stand out, other from someone else? Like, for me, example, in my industry, we'd say, like, say we get hundreds of college kids applying, right? But if there's someone who has their bachelor's degree in engineering and so does the other person, yet person A has some leadership experience, I'm going to pick them over the person that doesn't. So kind of having those things that stand out of qualities that you want.
Yeah, I want to jump in there because I don't believe a lot of the gym owners have the first one, because I didn't at the beginning. You look for someone, you're like, hey, I'm going to find someone that I like, that is available and is cheap. And that's usually not the best way to hire someone. You want to start with the job description. So then when you're evaluating the resumes, you'll have a more clear lens to look at exactly what you want. So for gym owners, I'd recommend writing down the stuff you do at a daily basis, and then which ones you want to hire someone to do for you, and probably from the trainer side first. Like Erica mentioned, the different certifications that are available. And every time I've tried to make something work that they might not have had the exact job description, it hasn't worked. So I would highly recommend getting the job description down like Erica's talking about, and then you can lead it into how you evaluate the resumes, plural. Don't get just one. You want a few options, because the worst amount of options is only one option.
Yep, for sure. So then, once you get to that point and you look at who you like on paper, then you're obviously going to interview the person. Depending on what your pool looks like, sometimes maybe just a phone screen to get a feel about the person. And in those types of questions, I would just ask more of, tell me about yourself. Tell me why you want this job. Tell me what experiences make you qualified for this position. And then if you get to the point of a face-to-face, and, in times that we're in right now, maybe you're going to do a virtual interview, but it's always good.
I don't want to, just on the phone screen, what are some red flags that perhaps you're looking for? Like, nah, maybe we won't take them to the next round, whether it's virtual or in person.
That's a good question. Probably kind of just a person sort of stumbling to answer, you know. And I think you can get a little bit of feel in the conversation of how enthusiastic they are for the position. Um, I would say that's probably just some key things.
Yeah, you're probably not looking for a deep dive. You're just probably, like they say when you're reading a book, the point of page 1 is to get you to page 2. Point of page 2 is to get you to page 3. So the point of the phone screening is to perhaps get to the virtual or in person, like more in-depth interview.
Yeah, and probably in these situations too, you know, you might want to gauge in that phone screen the person, you know, are you going to be able to work whatever it is, noon till 8 o'clock at night? Or are you going to be able to do weekends, that type of thing?
Okay, that's great because trainers often work split shifts, and that will tell you whether you should pursue them or not. Because people apply for a job even if you put the hours expected on, and then try to change them after they get employed, unless you're very clear about that. And they might be a great person, they might be a great fit otherwise, but if they can't work the hours you're open, you can't hire them.
Exactly. So, so then if you then like going into the face-to-face interview, or like I said, if you're doing a virtual one, I would definitely encourage the video, you know, because you can tell a lot by someone's body reactions and facial expressions. Um, what we like to do is behavioral type interviewing. So, you know, that's where the person can tell you exactly what they did in a situation. So if you ask them something pertaining to, you know, your job description, they should be able to tell you what was the situation, what techniques did they use, you know, what specific actions did they take themselves, and then what resulted from it. So a lot of ways, that type of interviewing can kind of help you see how the person deals with a situation. You know, so maybe it was when training somebody or teaching a class, whatever it is you look for in the person, they should be able to tell you what they did.
And when you said
Questions on that?
yeah, when you said you recommended the video, for those watching on YouTube, you can go back. I stood up a little straighter when you said video on. To make sure my hair is okay. Yeah, I like the behavior questioning, and you actually helped me on our last interview process for this, where we had our identified core values, and we had to come up with behavior-based questions to see if people had had those values or shared those values. So one of our company core values is be accountable. And so we had to have to come up with a question with a situation where they were accountable for a certain outcome and have them explain what that outcome was, how are they accountable, and you get a feel for if they were truly accountable or they were just kind of in charge, which are different things than what we're looking for.
Yeah. So that is definitely my favorite. I mean, there's also what's called strength-based interview questions
Ooh, I
where,
like the word strength already.
yes, true. So that's to, if you want to just ask the person, you know, tell me what comes easy to you. You know, tell me what qualities you bring to this company. You know, what do you bring to this gym? What do you think makes you successful? So that gives them a chance to kind of, I guess, say, you know, boast about themselves or tell you what strengths that, because that person on the other side, the interviewee, should be basically trying to sell themselves, you know, and that allows them to give those types of answers. So I think kind of a combination of both is good.
I was about to ask, you recommend a mixture or a certain order, maybe the strength-based to make them feel comfortable, and then, I don't know, then the behavior one?
Yeah, or you can kind of mix them into where, you know, maybe your behavior, your strength ones are first, and kind of saying, okay, tell me, mix that into the why do you want this job? You know, tell me what qualities about you and what strengths you have makes you qualified for this position.
Now, I picked this up from someone else, and you'll have to set me straight if it's not right, Erica. But one of the questions that I've enjoyed asking is looking at themselves through someone else's lens. So You look at their references, and maybe they have a professor on their reference list. So if I were to call Professor Thompson and ask her, what does she think you need to work on the most? What do you think she would say? Versus saying, what do you think your weaknesses are? And I've gotten a little bit better answers by asking what they think the other person would say, because I could actually call that person and ask them. So there is a
Right.
degree of, I don't think they necessarily want to purposefully leave something out, but it makes them think about themselves more analytically. Is
No,
that
I like,
weird, or is that okay?
no, I like that. Cause yeah, you're right. Sometimes, there's always the question, tell me what your weaknesses are. People don't always like to answer that, but my advice in that is, that can be a good question as long as you tie back what you did to correct that weakness, or what you learned from it that you won't do again because of it.
That's a great point. All right. And with, I guess, the references, I brought them up. You didn't bring them up, but I'm going to ask you about them anyways. Do you use them, or do you just use them to kind of check the boxes, not crazy or crazy?
Um, I mean, I don't use them a lot. I will say it's different with us because we're a large corporation with,
Yeah.
different policies, but with a small business, that's a good question. I would maybe utilize them more if you needed a tiebreaker, or you were just, there's something telling you, I'm not so sure, just in your gut. But that you made me think of something else too. If you have the ability to, depending on how large your business is, I would suggest having like more than one person interviewing, so that you can get an opinion. You can weigh out, you as the owner or the trainer, whatever position you're hiring for, is obviously the decision maker, but it's good to get kind of where one of your peers would score the person.
Yeah, I like that idea. We've started to integrate that more in the last year, where they will do a first round with somebody else and then a second round with me and somebody else. And then they'll usually do for gym
Yeah.
purposes, we'll do an observation one. If they get through the phone call, they get through the in-person, they get through the second in-person, then we'll actually introduce them to our members, because that's what we want to protect, not put a bunch of crazy people out there. And then we'll ask our members for the feedback. We'll set the person up for success as best as possible by pre-writing the program, making sure they're comfortable. We're just evaluating, kind of their body position and language. But I like to see them do the job a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, if you find someone, and I know it's a little bit different industry, but would you recommend were to hire you the 30-day trial period into a full-time job, or do you just go full-time?
That's tricky because I don't know, because I like how you said you like to see how people are with the members, because I've obviously seen that being a Synergy member. But if I was the candidate, I would probably prefer the hiring them. But obviously in the interview, you could communicate what your stance is on that. So if someone's not working out, then they're not going to work out if they don't click. And unfortunately, you're going to have to start the process over again. There's maybe some discussions of, whatever's going wrong, let's work on this. And then if that's not corrected, you'd have to start the process again.
Yeah, and I like having probably the most important thing that I've progressed on from beginning to end is I always just want to set people up for success and assume the best at the beginning. And now having more clarity in exactly what I expect with them is more fair to them and the company. And maybe that clarity is, hey, we're going to do this for 30 days. We'll have an evaluation. Here's our expectations. And we fully expect you to pass with flying colors. And our goal is to have you as a long-term trainer, but here's what we need to see exactly. And then we can have the conversation. So let's say someone gets through the process, you have your tiebreakers, and you end up hiring them. HR stuff do you recommend you get to them ASAP?
In terms of what, I guess.
So I was thinking in terms of employee handbooks, any sort of onboarding recommendations to make them feel comfortable when they start. What's
Uh,
kind of
yeah.
some process
Yeah,
there?
sorry. Yeah, for sure. I mean, employee handbook, I would say, like, quickly having a staff meeting, obviously, doing kind of intros with each other, like a one pager of who am I, and going around the room and kind of talking through your expectations as the owner or manager, what you expect of them, and kind of procedures that the gym might have.
Yeah, I like that. Say there's this awkward period, especially, I know it's a little different, but in a service-based business where they're immediately going to be in front of clients, um, we try to go with the minimum effective dose of how to dress, how to carry yourself, how to walk around the gym, and then everything else we can add on from there as they get more comfortable. But I think one of the most important things after hiring them is setting them up for success versus letting them walk in and guess what you want. And I guess it goes back
For
to
sure.
Erica's first point of having a job description and then having an onboarding plan of when they start to make sure that they are set up for success. Because I've seen too many gym owners say, all right, I hired this trainer. The trainer goes out on the floor. Gym owner might critique them in front of the other clients and things like that because they're used to their own training methodology, and then that person gets set up for failure and drops off, and the trainer and the owner says, well, you know what, I do it the best anyways, I'm gonna jump back in, and it almost strokes their own ego. But you asked for trouble by not setting them up for success at the end of your hiring process.
Yeah, for sure. I think, that first initial meeting is huge. We'll do things like that as well because you're setting the stage of what you expect, um, you know, in all aspects, what you expect when they're at the gym, walking around, what you expect if they request time off, all those different things that are kind of dealt with up front so they're not surprised.
That's a great point. Again, to the clarity part is that not only are you thinking about what you want as a business owner, you have to respect, especially in the training field, they have to work a split schedule, and life's going to be a little bit tough and tricky, and you're looking for a very specific person. So compensation doesn't only come in payment, it comes in their job satisfaction and their how clear they are with their responsibilities and how good they feel about it. And that's a lot of that's set up and framed after you hire them. Like, how much are they going to make? How do they get days off? When do you have your evaluations? Like, that should all be laid out so they're not left guessing, like, does this person really care about me?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so the last question for you, Erica, is who do you think the strongest trainer at Synergy is, Brian or Joe? On camera.
No, no fair. Well, Joe's tie.
Joe, they're both pretty pathetic, but I think Joe grows a better mustache. I don't know if you saw what Brian was trying to
Yeah,
do.
for
Neither of them are anything that's to write home about, but none of them would put them to the top of the application pile in terms of that. But I really appreciate your time, Erica. And sit tight for just a second. I'm going to do the outro and remind the listeners that they can get our daily gym business owner masterclass right to their inbox at levelupyourgym.com. 3 to 5 minute videos. So it's bite-sized education each morning at levelupyourgym.com. And if you've enjoyed the tips and podcasts, make sure to review it on your favorite podcast platform. Talk to you at the next